out as soon as it starts so that we're not getting feedback. Take a few seconds.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay.
So just tell me.
Okay, so that should be running. We're recording. We're good to go.
Wait, we got it. There we go. Okay,
Great.
well, we'll call this meeting of the Climate Action Plan Committee to order for Monday, May 8th, 2023. Present are Hoy.
Slater.
Stapleton.
Welcome, everybody, and let's go around the room and have staff introduce themselves as well. Heather.
Oh, sure. Heather Dimke, management analyst with Public Works.
Brian Zink. I'm a franchise administrator and out of finance.
Brian Martin, the acting public works director.
Keith Stilley, city manager.
And our guests.
Zachary Sawicki, Northwest Natural.
Laurie Gilardi with 350 Sound Oregon.
Ray Quisenberry with 350. Bill Carver, 350.
Welcome, and online we have Wendy Belize.
Hi there, Wendy Valise with PGE.
Welcome. Let's see. So I just wanted to mention that I have appointed a new member to our committee, Michael Slater. Welcome, a member of our planning commission. So he is joining us now as a full member. We have time for public comment. Phil?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Phil Carver for 350 Salem, and I thank you for the opportunity to make a public comment. We're pleased with many aspects of the climate action plan, the PGE and the progress on renewable electricity and the agenda item. I won't go into detail, but we're concerned that this committee is not the right structure for doing the detailed analysis for meeting the goals. There needs to be a assessment of the GHG reduction potential, which did not get really a good analytical analysis in the original climate action plan. And for the three sectors, the electricity sector is on track, even without the community program, but that would accelerate it. Transportation is going to be a big challenge. But the natural gas sector really remains unanalyzed in terms of the ability to meet the greenhouse gas goals. So we really appreciate Michael Slater being added to this committee, but we believe that in the summer, a commission, like the Planning Commission with citizens, to take the time to really dig into the analytics of meeting the goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Nope. Okay. On to item 3, approval of the 3/6/23 meeting minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
I have to abstain.
Well, we'll just put those off to next time then,
Oh, sure. Yes,
since
I
we don't
can
have
do
enough
that.
votes. Sorry. It's fine. And then on to item number 4, Portland General Electric Clean Energy Plan and Community Supported Renewals.
Good morning, Wendy. Thank you again for joining. And I have your slide deck. So whenever you're ready, I can go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you, Mayor and Climate Action Committee, City Councilors, and new member, Michael. Really happy to be here today and give you a little more information about the recently filed Integrated Resource Plan and Clean Energy Plan. And so I'm gonna get through the slide deck. Feel free to ask questions. There's a lot of information, but we'll get through it. So the second slide, Heather, would be great.
And can you hear us all right?
Okay, perfect. Second slide.
Wendy, can you hear us all right?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. Hold on a second. There's this weird thing that's happening for me right now. Okay, there we go. So that's a little bit about PGE for those of you who don't know about Portland General Electric. We have been around for over 130 years. And what this slide doesn't, and we have 16 generation facilities across Oregon and Washington and Montana. What this slide doesn't share is that about 46% of Oregon's population lives within our service territory. And for those of you who are unaware, in Oregon, electric utilities have designated service areas, so we do not compete with each other. And we cover about 51 cities. 75% of Oregon's commercial and industrial activity occurs in our service area. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through some information, and at PGE, we like acronyms, but I thought I would just take this slide to walk through it with you so that it gives us all the same foundation to work from as I'm go through the slide deck. So we recently filed our integrated resource plan and our first clean energy plan on March 31st. And so a little bit about the difference. Our integrated resource plan basically forecasts our system energy and capacity needs. So it's giving it a long-term view on how we're going to meet our customers' energy needs. And it also provides, in addition to that, our integrated resource plan it also includes a short-term action plan and the basis for any requests for proposals, RFPs. Now, the clean energy plan, was required out of House Bill 2021. And this one we filed together with our IRP, and it's our first one ever. And that one details PGE's plans to meet emission targets and demonstrate our continuous progress towards that. It also requires extensive community engagement and must include community benefits in meaningful ways. Together, the integrated resource plan and this inaugural clean energy plan provide a comprehensive roadmap detailing how the company will meet customers' energy needs and Oregon's ambitious gas emission targets while still maintaining reliability, safety, and affordability. PGE's path to these targets is possible with resources available today, and I will get into that and talk about the company's strategy. Next slide, please. So we have huge goals, and 350.org is very familiar, and others in the room are familiar with our goals. And I thought it'd be helpful to talk about what these goals are, which is decarbonize our systems, and you'll see our goals there. And we are leading an energy transformation that will harness the power of clean and renewable resources. On the electrified side, customers and communities are electrifying vehicles, homes, and workplaces. And just a data point is 100% of new car sales by 2035 will be electric vehicles. So it's not going to happen overnight. It will be a transition. And on the preferred side, one of the things that our customers and communities depend on us to deliver affordable power to live, work, and play safely. Next slide, please. So how are we going to navigate this extraordinary transition? And as I mentioned, on March 31st, we released our Clean Energy Plan and our Integrated Resource Plan to the Oregon Public Utility Commission. Now, they will take some time to evaluate and review these, and this combined plan is over 1,000 pages long, and I'm going to try to summarize it here in this one slide for you. Interestingly, I've spent a good 2 weeks getting through it, so it is long, but we modeled all of our load forecasts. We looked at all of our generation and supply options, and we are proposing a 5-part action plan, which the Oregon Public Utility Commission will evaluate, PUC. There are 5 major actions, and they are as follows. Customer actions. We will not be able to achieve our collective decarbonization goals without engaged customers. And that means customers doing energy efficiency upgrades, signing up for load shifting programs at lower usage during peak times when we ask them to. It will also require large renewables, wind and solar. We need to site additional large wind and solar facilities, and we need to do it to diversify our portfolio. On the small solar storage, we also must support the siting of small solar and battery storage throughout communities, including Salem and Marion County. To add a bit to the complexity of this, we are investing in a technology platform that basically aggregates all these small batteries, demand response programs like thermostats, and solar panels into what we call a virtual power plant that we can basically ramp up or down like we do a regular power plant. Ultimately, this platform could include anything that allows us to shift or add load. So batteries at home or from plugged-in vehicle, or even just the ability during a peak time to start charging your vehicle if it's plugged in and wait to charge it in the middle of the night. So I can talk, and I could do the entire hour on virtual power plants, but the key that I want to convey is that we will increasingly be using technology to make the system more efficient and shift load that can be shifted to better match the available generation, which I can share is partly because solar and wind is intermittent, so we'll need that ability. And then I have it listed here, storage, and that is primarily battery storage, and then transmission. At the highest level, PGE strategy involves a wide array of commercially available tools in the clean energy toolkit between now and 2030. Next slide, please. We really want to talk about maintaining affordability, and safe, reliable, affordable, and clean are the 4 attributes we focus on. And affordability is a big one lately with inflation and added costs due volatility in fuel prices and extreme weather events, and the investments we are needing to make. At a high level, giving customer tools to control and manage their own costs is a big priority for us. This includes an improved dashboard that shows their energy use and when they may be using power. And also they can set the text alerts to notify them when their bill gets to a certain level. Second, we have a new program launched last year called the IQBD. It's another PGE acronym, which offers 15 or 25% discounts off electric bills to people of qualified income levels, and that's where the IQBD comes. We have seen strong enrollment in this program and are continuing to enroll people this year. This is on top of the bill assistance programs that already existed and are run by community-based organizations, and which we received a significant boost from the federal government recently. Third, the recent federal legislation, and that is the investment, the IIJA funds and the IRA are there to help support this clean energy transition. And we are frankly doing everything we can to get us and our region more than our fair share in the competitive process. We are in the process of applying for nearly $500 million in grants to offset costs that customers would otherwise need to pay. And we are hopeful about this process. We're looking forward to working with you and other local governments to support grant applications that we are eligible for. And finally, we are doing everything we can to manage our own costs. This includes managing our own portfolio and purchasing advanced contracts to keeping our own overhead basically flat, even in the face of significant inflation. Next slide, please. I just wanted to get a little more detail about customers and communities. And that's by 2030, PGE aspires to be able to meet as much as 25% of our energy needed on the hottest and coldest days with power coming from customers and distributed energy resources. Our entire decarbonization strategy takes a community-first lens to make sure that the clean energy future is accessible to all. So we are going to need to work with customers, with local governments, with contractors, with suppliers and community members along this way. And these are two. Energy efficiency is a significant piece of our plan, as well as the community-based renewable energy resources, CBREs. And I just wanted to just highlight the importance of these items as well as working with all of you and our customers. Next slide, please. Now, what does that mean for Salem? All of that, but I really wanted to highlight Mayor Hoy and councilors, the incredible working relationship we have with city staff who are continually working with us on how to find efficiencies, as well as support your climate action goals. And that would be Heather and Ryan, and certainly before Heather's time, you're retired. I can't recall her name right now, but she was wonderful to work with. I'm sorry, I apologize to her. She was great to work with as well. But one of the things that's exciting is that you are now getting energy. You are a member of the Green Future Impact, and you approved that agreement 2 years ago, I believe. And you were one of 10 local governments now that is getting energy from, I'm going to try to honor this, from the Patch-Wywit Fields in Eastern Oregon. So this is Oregon's largest solar facility, and it's now generating power thanks to your part in participation in the Green Future Impact Program. It's powering your city facilities. What was I going to say about that? So I want to say a little bit because I love this so much. Patch-Wywit means sun in the Sahapin language. So the project is located on ceded lands of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and the name pays homage to the rich history and stewardship of Warm Springs and Umatilla tribes. And just so you know how large this project is, it spans about nearly 1,200 acres and includes about 471,000 solar panels. And so we're really excited that facility is online and that you're receiving your energy from it. I also wanted to give an update. We were here last year talking about the community supported renewables effort, and a short term, we call it the Muni tariff. And I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that. So again, it's an opportunity for local governments together with their households and small businesses to drive acceleration for renewable resources and emissions reduced at a pace faster than PGE in the state of Oregon. So it's community-wide. Since recently we filed our clean energy plan, and it provides insights into how we intend to comply with House Bill 2021, which require an addition of 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts of non-emitting resources by 2030. We have valued the input and engagement and feedback from the city staff here, and that includes Heather and Ryan on the development of this. So one of the things that we're going to do is PGE's procurement cycle. So we'll put out a 2023 RFP, and it's scheduled to identify viable projects in the spring of 2024. And at that point, PGE would be better positioned or best positioned to share indicative pricing for a potential Muni tariff offering. Noting the inability to kind of provide pricing today, given the procurement environment challenges, namely macroeconomic pressures, supply chain inflation, so no tariffs. So again, we're gonna wait until 2024 just to have a better sense of where we're at with that community supported tariff. And so there's another way that I wanted to highlight. So as we work together, some things that could be coming up that I will work with your staff on is potentially siting generation storage and electric vehicle charging in the community. And you may have heard that we just announced the second largest battery storage facility in the metro area. In the country, it's the second largest in the country. And we'll be looking for more of that, and that could be something that we could coming to you. The other area is federal funds. as we look to see opportunities to maximize cost efficiencies, we may be looking to partner with you on potential federal funds. And like I said, we have applied for over 500 million, and we're going to be looking for more so that we can utilize those funds in support of this clean energy transition. With that, next slide. Now I'm happy to talk, to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Wendy, for that presentation. I have a quick question on storage. We met with a commercial storage provider recently who's looks like planning on something on Fairview Industrial. Is that something that you're involved in? I wasn't clear what PGE's role was with that project. Do you know about that?
I do know about that, and we have received questions about are we talking to them, and we are talking to them from an energy capacity perspective, so serving them, but I can find out more because again I just got an update over the weekend about them, and so let me get an update, and I'm happy to send that along to you, Mayor, and share what kind of engagement we're involved. But yes, we are aware of that facility.
Thank you. Yeah, it looked pretty exciting, but I wasn't really clear about the business model. It seems like it's going to be a commercial venture where they buy electricity from you, store it, then sell it back or something. Is that kind of the idea?
I don't know. I just know it's a larger scale commercial battery storage. So but again, I will get the details because I'm not sure myself.
Thank you. Other questions?
Well, I'm really interested in the 1,000-page document, but do you have like a 10-page document?
Executive summary?
Yeah, an executive summary. I would love to see something like that. That's better than one slide, but not 10,000 or whatever it is, 1,000 pages.
Oh, is that Council President Stapleton?
It is.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't see you. Yes, I'm more than happy, Councilor Stapleton, to send you the executive summary. And that is a much more digestible document. So I can send that to Heather and Ryan, and they can pass it along to you.
Thank you. I'm really interested in trying to find ways to cite solar locations within the city that can kind of help get us more sustainable and reliable electricity here, and what that looks like, and how it would work. Between how can we help you get that done, and what does it look like in our community to see that? So
we did a tour of the new Public Works building on Friday and got a little bit more information on the new microgrid that's going in there, and with the solar panel will feed it, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I want to know like that, but times
Bigger, right?
Yeah, I want to know how that looks across the whole city.
Yeah.
Yep,
Other questions?
absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to say again, working with Heather and others, that microgrid was a huge win. It's the first one in the state that ODO awarded, and the first community microgrid. So we're really excited about that project, and thankful to work with your staff. The other one that I want to note, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I certainly can get the most. Ryan might actually have them, but because you were a member of, you signed for the Green Future Impact, and you were a part of Green Future Enterprise. In terms of city facilities energy, you are tremendously ahead on getting your, again, city facilities from renewable resources. And I'm happy to provide those numbers, but Ryan may actually have them as well. I don't want to put you on the spot, Ryan, but you might have those numbers as well.
We're right around 85%.
85% of the electricity for our facilities are
Of the
renewable.
electricity that we buy from PGE is renewable. There's also, we buy from Salem Electric, and the facilities are in their service territory.
Gotcha.
But what we purchase from PGE is around 85%.
Does that, so if you were to factor in the cogeneration facility at Willow Lake, does that number even go up higher then? Because I'm assuming we're not purchasing that electricity.
I'm not sure how that factors.
Okay, because that's electricity we're generating.
Right, so this would be electricity that we are purchasing
Right,
from
right, right.
PGE. So in terms of total usage, that would be an interesting
Yeah.
thing to look at. So
Because that's a huge amount that's powering basically that whole facility.
Right.
Great. Michael?
Yeah, I do. So Wendy, thank you. This is Mike Slater. I'm a Salem Planning Commissioner. I'm very interested to just pick up on Councilor Stapleton on how we expand the footprint of renewable energy in Salem and storage facilities. I'm particularly interested from a resiliency standpoint as well. Have you worked with a city that has developed like their own energy plan, like a renewable energy plan or a resiliency plan, like a citywide to get it, what Councilor Stapleton was talking about, like a long-term city strategic plan?
Well, there's a few cities that have climate action plans. And I think each of them has a slightly different focus. They're certainly about reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. And some of them have components of resiliency. But again, this is probably Multnomah County and City of Portland may have components of that. Milwaukee is also has a climate action plan as well. But I think if and Heather certainly can correct me, but a part I think of the city of Salem was a resiliency component. And the microgrid is an example of that. You know, again, that was the first one that we're doing that is all connected to certainly, and includes battery storage and the public works building and community members. So that's kind of the first of a kind. And that really is towards resiliency, because in the event that facility would continue to operate. But we were happy to look at more ways to build on that in Salem, that if that is of interest with all of you as leaders.
So you aren't aware of a city that has a master plan or a comprehensive plan related to energy production, distribution, storage? You know,
No.
we have a transportation master plan, we have a comprehensive master plan, a parks master plan. I'm just wondering if other people have an energy master plan.
No, we don't know. In fact, again, I'm just going to compliment you, because City of Salem has generally been at the forefront. Before you had the climate action plan, you did have you guys can correct me, city staff can correct me, but you had an energy plan in terms of energy efficiency and conservation and some targets around that. Before I can say this, because I'm going to age myself, I've been here a while, and I can say that it was ahead of many other communities when you first introduced even an energy plan.
I think that was from 2010, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Kind of energy efficiency conservation block grant program. We had a community energy plan that was developed back then.
Can I lean into this just a little bit? And Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I would love to see this idea of a comprehensive plan on how do we get to this place where everybody has that micro, what is it called? Grid, thank you. And renewable energy is across the city, and for those purposes, both the twofold, being resilient and also addressing our energy needs in a renewable way. I would love to see something like that become part of our plan moving forward. I don't know how you feel.
It's intriguing. I don't know enough about it yet to have an opinion either way, but I'm interested in the idea. I think that, you know, if we're ever going to move things significantly, you have to have a plan that takes us over the long haul, and not just, really these small incremental things. So I would like to know more about that. I don't know. Are you aware of one somewhere?
No, I'm just
Okay.
trying to.
Okay.
And so this idea of us kind of leading the way, I really like that idea too, right? I mean, part of it is frustrating because you think like, I don't know how y'all feel, but I'm always like, I'm pushing, right? And I want to do more, and I'm constantly thinking that other people are ahead. But then when you learn that we are ahead, it's twofold. You're very proud of the work we're doing, but you're also frustrated that not more work is being done.
And
So-
no one knows.
And nobody, yeah.
Everyone
so-
thinks Portland's in the lead.
But I would love to keep pushing
Spoiler
the envelope
alert.
as far as we can on this.
So I do have one more question if I could.
Yes, can I just share with Counselor Stapleton is I think one of the pieces that will further refine in terms of a program is I did mention the community supported renewables tariff, and we call it the Muni tariff. And both Heather and Ryan have been involved in providing feedback and learning more. And that is where the entire community, it's a program that potentially the entire community would be getting their energy from a renewable source. Again, because of our RFP and CEP and RFPs, that's 3 acronyms in a row. I apologize. Because we recently filed our integrated resource plan and clean energy plan, and that outlines our RFP for 2023, we are pausing the plan simply so that we don't want to develop it out of alignment with the short-term action plans, and we'll have a better sense next year. But that is where potentially where you're one of, I can say, a handful of cities that have provided feedback into the development of that tariff and that are waiting to kind of further develop it and understand how that program would work. So City of Salem, Portland, Milwaukee, I believe Beaverton, those are all some of the cities that you're all looking for potentially that kind of community-wide program for getting energy from renewable sources. But more to come on that. And again, we have engaged certainly Heather on this front, and any continued conversations. They participated in workshops, and we've had meetings with our staff on that with your team there.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
So one last question I have is, so what resources does PGE have if Salem is interested in expanding its renewable energy infrastructure?
That's a great question. And right now, I think the microgrid one is we're really interested in that, partly because, how do we expand, exactly getting to Council President Stapleton's, how do we expand on that program and do it in a kind of cost-effective way that incorporates business and residents. And so those are things that we'd be looking at. Those are the kinds of conversations that we love to have to talk about areas that might make sense for potential opportunities. And I think particularly on the distributive generation side, we would love to have conversations about the city potentially investing in that program. Again, that is where basically you have a large battery for backup systems. For example, a police station, although we don't serve them. An alleyway kept us from serving them. Salem Electric serves them. We love Salem Electric. So, but you have a large scale battery that's a backup to your generation in case anything ever happens. Well, most of the time, those batteries are there, again, only in emergency situations. So they're sitting there. We have a program that we would love to talk with City of Salem on is if you incorporate some more of these batteries, they're basically little mini generating plants, because on the hottest days of the year and the coldest days of the year, we would tap into that energy. If you're not using it, of course, we would tap into that energy and it would help us with our load. So those are the kind of conversations we'd love to have with you about how do we have City of Salem kind of engage in those kinds of programs.
And there are resources available for us to do that? Is that what I understand?
Yes, and there is resources available, and there's resources available, and we can certainly talk about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Wendy?
I'm not following the Muni tariff, and what is that?
That is, in essence, it's a community-wide renewable program. So every resident and business would be opted into the community-wide program. So everyone would be getting their energy from a renewable source.
So as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, basically the council would set a policy that we are a community tariff community. And so instead of opting in, members would have to opt out. So it basically just reverses it from an opt out into an opt out. So by default, you're renewable energy as opposed to by default, you're the general mix. Is that accurate, Wendy?
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yes, PG provided a very brief overview on the tariff program. I think it was September of last year.
Is right about the time you were getting here. Now, you weren't at the meeting, I don't think, or if you were, you.
So does it provide some revenue for projects?
Yes.
There you go. I'm in.
Yes, that is part of it. And the city, again, Mayor Hoary is correct. The city would set up the policy and how it would identify the projects that it wanted to invest in. And I think it kind of gets,
Yeah, and then we would be able to identify,
Otherwise, it's just planning.
It's just
Right.
all very nice things to say.
Right.
When's the timeline for that?
next year.
again, we're putting up, we were in development, but because of the IRP and we have our short-term action plans, we're putting out an RFP in 2023, and those projects potential projects aren't identified until the spring of 2024. We anticipate that in 2024, we'll move forward on understanding what the short-term, what those projects are. We'll look at the summer of 2024 for that program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Wendy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And just so you know, you guys are doing awesome. We love Salem. You're awesome to work with, and you're an awesome community. So I'm always here to answer questions. I will follow up with you on the questions that you asked, executive summary, as well as how does the Willow Lake play into your overall, because that could slightly change that. And then also the storage project. So I'll follow up on those and send those along.
Sounds great.
So much, Wendy.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Plastic Pollution and Recycling Modernization Act. That just screams Ryan Zink all over it. It's like-
Let's talk trash.
Let's talk trash.
If you want to hit the little thing on the bottom or the top. Yep, that one right there. I'll go see my notes. Cool, that works. Actually, I don't think I brought enough for everyone, but I do have slides to if you want to follow along. And again, has my notes.
Thank you.
So I guess I don't need to do introductions again, but I'm Ryan, franchise administrator out of the budget finance office. So just to be upfront, my intent is not to give you a thorough understanding of this, but just a very high level, just to introduce you to the idea of what's called the RMA, or the Plastic Pollution and Recycling Modernization Act. This is a result of Senate Bill 582 from the 2021 legislative session, and so we're now getting into again the result of that and the intent of that bill. And obviously happy to follow up with questions and additional information after this. Yeah, thank you. So this also is a direct tie-in to the climate action plan. As the climate action plan was being developed, the RMA was also in its early stages. You might even embryo type stage, and so we included it as waste. So it's materials and waste number 7 under objective 2. So we were including that because we knew it was going to come. So page 34 on appendix 8 if you're interested. So and then So I'm gonna do just a brief, oh yeah, go ahead, next slide.
Okay.
Thank you. So big changes coming. I'm apologize. I'm just gonna read this a little bit. I just want to make sure I get it right. So the Plastic Pollution and Recycling Modernization Act updates Oregon's recycling system by building on local community programs and leveraging resources from producers, creating a system where everyone in Oregon has the same opportunities to recycle. The law requires producers of packing, printing and writing paper, and food serviceware to share responsibility for the effective, responsible handling of their products after use. The new law became effective January 1st of 2022, and the program implementation begins in July of 2025. The RMA builds on existing standards and requirements from Oregon's Opportunity to Recycle Act, and the new law creates, you like this, Keith? New law creates many benefits for local governments, including funding to expand recycling opportunities and to help reduce contamination in the recycling system. Funding. So, very briefly, how it works. Again, very, very high level. Producers, again, of those products, of those listed products, will join a producer responsibility organization and pay fees based on the products they sell in Oregon. Producer responsibility organizations, or PROs, you might also hear people call them pros, but PROs, will use the fees to fund and reimburse various local recycling service expenses. Recycling processing facilities will establish new permit and certification requirements. A uniform statewide collection list will establish a uniform list of materials that are recyclable across Oregon. And local governments will receive financial support to expand recycling services and address contamination. In order for us, Salem, and local governments to be eligible for that funding, they needed to complete and submit a needs assessment survey by April 14th of 2023. Yes, we did. After collaborating with our haulers group, Marion County, and other local partners, we completed and submitted the needs assessment, which will be reviewed by DEQ and passed on to the PROs. The questions of the survey, again, very high level, but they're gauging our existing recycling services and assessing where we might expand service. So briefly, our existing recycling services are en route. We have en route commingled for single family and multifamily, even though the multifamily isn't widely used. There's some issues there with, again, contamination and ownership of that type of thing causes, there's issues there. Obviously, en route commingled recycling services for commercial. At a residential curbside, many of you have the little red or blue or different colored little plastic bin. We pick up glass, motor oil, antifreeze, household batteries, used paint or paint, and used cooking oil. We have recycling depots throughout the city. And a reload facility. So the MRF, the Marion Resource Recovery Facility in Brooks, is used as a reload facility. I can get into what that is if you want. There's a household hazardous waste facility out at Skirts, which is the Salem Kaiser Transfer Station. So that's where, if you, again, paint or fuels, cleaning products, anything, there's a number of items that really shouldn't be thrown away, but can be recycled through that hazardous waste facility. And then we also have a electronics recycling or e-waste program here in Salem. So to the areas where we'd like to expand. And literally there's a question on the survey, do you want to expand your services? We marked yes. So for en route, there's 3 areas that they're looking at for expanding services. So en route, we definitely want to expand our multifamily recycling services for en route. That's also an element of the RMA. I'll just read this to you briefly. For January of 2026 is a goal to ensure that newly purchased roll carts, bins, and containers. Oh, sorry, wrong one. There it is. I marked the wrong one here. To ensure adequate recycling collection and access for multifamily housing. Again, that's a goal for July of 2026 as part of one of the elements of the RMA. So we'll obviously want to be expanding that for the en route multifamily. We may be looking at expanding or adding additional recycling depots citywide. There's going to be some guidance. There's rulemaking happening right now. And we'll get into that in a moment. There's rulemaking that's going on, and part of that rulemaking will be guidance on this is your population, how many recycling depots and convenient locations should you have per 1,000 of population, that type of thing. So we'll want to benchmark against that.
Can I ask you a question about that recycling depots? I'm only aware, like, I know I can go out to my garbage company. I know I can go out to the transfer station.
Yep.
Or to other garbage companies. I'm not aware of recycling depots.
Those are the recycling depots.
Oh,
So
okay.
Every recycling company at their main location, they have a spot designated, or going out to skirts,
The transfer station recycling center has been decimated over the past few years. I mean, if you go there today compared to what it used to be like, there's nothing. I mean, they do cardboard and they do, electronics and those basic things, but it used to be a robust system of, where you could take everything there and recycle. Is that ever going to come back?
that's what this will help us do.
Okay.
Yep. That's
That was my question.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Because I guess the other kind of offshoot of that is,
Mhm.
it seems like, this has kind of been a county deal forever, right? And it seems like we're kind of getting more involved in this. Is that kind of part of this program? Is that cities are getting more actively involved?
I think that is a part of it. So Marion County is our waste shed. They're the owner of our waste shed. And so they have historically taken on that role, although officially it's the city's role. But Marion County has, through their program and funding that they get as part of our tipping fee, through the disposal fee, primarily through Covanta. That's a whole nother conversation. But through that funds their environmental services department. And so as part of that, they do a lot of work with outreach, creating training material, and just managing their waste shed very, very well. And we have benefited when looking at recovery numbers, statewide recovery numbers. We're number 1 or 2 in terms of recovery statewide as for our waste shed. So that's the benchmark I'm using.
Yeah.
When I say very well.
And I'm just thinking there's so much more we could do.
Yeah.
When I think of it, I'm like, yeah, we're like number 1 of a bunch of losers. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
it's true. I mean, I don't mean that about personally, but it's like nobody's doing a great job if we're number 1 or 2. That's what I'm trying to say.
I would like to say that the
Yeah.
household waste, whatever, out at skirts.
I think it's open like one day a month.
It's open 6 days during a month, none of them on the weekend,
Yeah.
and from 8 to 3:30, right? Like when people are working. And then my husband will go all the way out there and like take all the things that we've saved up because nobody freaking has time to go there during the week. And then they're like, sorry, we can only take 4 of those light bulbs. You're gonna have to take the rest of those fluorescent tubes home. And Isaac's like, mother of, right? It's really cool. Sorry, I'm passing on. So household angst to you all. And I would love to see that change.
And I'm happy to pass that on to
Thank you.
those that manage that facility, and we can maybe provide some other options for you.
Yeah, or maybe just like push the days that they're open to the weekends. Like that would be a great start.
So that facility, the household hazardous waste, that particular facility is a contract that Marion County has. So there's a third-party provider that the contracts and runs that, they contract to run that. And
The
so,
whole thing is third party. It's just a different third party.
true.
Republic does the other one and
Right.
whatever it is.
Right. And so, and that comes down to available funding, money, and how that, and the availability of that, and the usage of it. If they see a larger usage, there may be a reason to, provide more hours. So, but yeah, that's definitely something that we can talk more about and provide that feedback, and maybe become more involved in that process.
The other frustrating thing is I'm a person who frequents the recycling center out there, obviously, because I live in that part of town. But,
Yeah.
if you go on the weekend, you have to wait in the scale line to get to recycling.
Yep.
So you're backed up clear out on the road, just waiting. And I'm like, no, I just need recycling. I'm not going to garbage.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, you're waiting in half an hour or whatever it is.
Yep.
You know, it's very
There's a
frustrating.
lot of feelings about this. but-
Yeah, a lot of frustration.
Yes, yes.
I haven't said a thing, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Lots of fields. I get it. Yeah. And so this is definitely an area with the recycling depots where we can get it, kind of take a good holistic look at our community and go, okay, what are our needs? And through the PROs and the funding that they're kind of a self-funded organization, we can then get part of some of that funding to either improve our existing facilities, recycling depots, and or add additional inconvenient locations. And part of that is, if you have an unmanned depot, then contamination goes up. So how do we manage that? Do we have the funding to, we can set it up. Part of this is continued. It's like they provide the capital, but then the ongoing operations, we may need to have our own funding for that.
Like
There's
Like at my recycling depot, which
Mhm.
is Suburban really, and not this transfer station, Suburban Garbage is my provider. When you go to that depot, you can't put anything in because it's all full every time. Like the cardboard's overflow. There's no place to put anything.
that's good feedback.
Well, I have
That
more.
makes
Yeah, like the bottle drop, like the debacle that is the redemption centers that you can never put any cans in because they're full. One more, and I swear I'll stop.
All right.
I gotta get it all out. Ryan.
Bring it
I
on.
gotta get it all out.
Bring it on.
So I was at the transfer station recently at the recycling center, taking some, I can't remember what I got. Oh, I got a new grill. And so the packing material was that looks like brown cardboard type, really great stuff. It's not packing peanuts. It's all in my mind. Oh, great. This is all recyclable, but it's too big for my roll cart. So I just run it over to the transfer station and I'm tossing it in the cardboard where it says cardboard and brown paper bags. And this is clearly fits that category. And the guy comes and says, oh yeah, you can't put that stuff in there. I'm like, why not? There's too much glue in it. I'm like, okay, I didn't analyze the glue content, but it's brown, it's cardboard. It's like,
Yeah.
and he's like, and I'm like, he goes, no, that's just garbage. Because there's too much glue in it. Like,
So is this where this bill will get at that because the people
Yeah.
producing it, right?
So again, producers, they are creating the products, the packaging, et cetera, within, this is not every product, this is within a finite
Right.
area of products. But then also the packaging for maybe possibly some of those other products. So that we're looking at it from, cradle to grave of how is that, what products are being produced? Is there a way of recovering those products so that we can make them into useful products so we can, get them back into the beginning of that again?
I was
That's
wrong, I have
super-
one more. Like, you just reminded me, so like, is this gonna do Costco into the game? So this morning, as I'm cutting my little teeny bottle of Claritin out of the ginormous piece of cardboard packaging, is that gonna make them more responsible with that and make, so they don't have this big piece of cardboard that's completely unnecessary?
That's a really good question. I may need to follow up on that.
But it is recyclable.
It is, I took it apart, I took the
Yeah.
plastic out, I put the cardboard in the recycling, and I threw away the plastic, of course.
Yeah.
But it was so unnecessary.
If you shop at like another store, they just have like a little Claire's bottle, like in a little cardboard box.
But they're not nearly as cheap.
That's the cost.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Sorry. I really hate Costco. So, with the money that comes with this,
Mhm.
does all the money just go to the county?
No.
So we get some.
It will be directed to the cities, but we may be, so it's gonna be in partnership with our haulers, most likely. And so they're the ones who are typically, so that's to TBD
Okay.
term.
Spoiler alert, no.
No, yeah. That's what I'm.
Yes, that's Ryan's way. Having known Ryan now for several years, I understand, no, it's
No,
not gonna.
no.
It's not all just, it's not like FEMA money where it all gets funneled through the state and we have to, no. So it's cities are being put on our local governments, and so the county put in their own assessment, so they're getting their own money.
Okay.
Us,
okay.
Kaiser,
That's
you
what I
know,
wanted to hear.
each local government, so the county is going to be responsible for looking at, you know, the urban, or that's,
UGB.
yeah,
Urban growth.
urban growth boundary and
So
making
the
sure that-
unincorporated areas that are.
yeah, unincorporated, yeah, thank you. So they have their whole area, obviously unincorporated, and then, you know, other areas that they support. So they've got their own work, but we are working in tandem in cooperation with them to, again, we're part of that single solid waste system known as Marion County Waste Shed. And
What about Polk?
and so we serve the Polk area. We don't have as much partnership with Polk County because they're a different waste shed. But everything that is, all the services that we provide in Marion County side of Salem, the Polk County side of Salem are completely included in that. Does that make sense? So
No, it didn't.
so while we have we're in the Marion County waste shed. Polk County side of Salem's not left out. If that makes sense.
Okay,
So
so what does that look like in the real world? Like, how does that in a practical sense?
we have 6 haulers
Mhm.
in the city of Salem. Those haulers, the 2 haulers that serves the Polk County side of West Salem, are part of our haulers association, which is there's actually 8 haulers part of that association. There's 2 haulers that are within that larger service area
county
that don't serve inside the city.
Yeah.
And so there's cooperation and work going on so there's that collaboration understanding that, hey, we're managing this larger waste system. We're not siloed to just Marion County when it comes to the city of Salem.
Thank you.
So do they get the same benefits?
Yes,
Gotcha.
there are some slightly different cost structures and some different things, but
I've heard that.
that's for
completely
another.
story.
Yeah, that's for
Part of that
another.
other story.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can keep going.
But in all seriousness, if there are some specific things like Suburban and their depot there, that either constituents bring up, you hear from other people, or you experience yourself, please let me know, and I'm happy to follow up and provide that feedback.
Now that I know that that's like really part of our plan and like not just because they're there to be nice. Like that's, yeah, I'll give you, I'll definitely will give you the feedback. I'll take pictures.
All right,
Yeah.
please do.
I feel so much better, Ryan. Thank you. This has been a great therapy session.
So let's see, we talked about obviously expanding recycling depots and then the reload facility. So I mentioned earlier a statewide list of products that would be recoverable. And that can be either through the depots, curbside, or other ways. And so it's going to be each of those could be a different mix of products, right? Or a different mix of materials. So we're not everything that's recycled curbside is going to be through a depot or through the depot's curbside or in other ways. But there's some overlap there. The reload facility, where was I going? Oh yeah, excuse me, that statewide list. Because there may be some changes in what materials we focus on, that the MRF and Brooks may need either some expansion. And right now there isn't a very comprehensive depot at the MRF available to the public. They're looking at expanding that. But just real brief, reload facility is not a processor. It's not sorting, not any of that. It's we're taking all these trucks, we're compacting it, putting it into a larger truck that can take it further to be more properly processed. So reducing the the miles driven by every single little truck. So
What is the MRF facility?
it's the Marion Resource Recovery Facility. And that's owned and operated by the Haulers Association.
So I know that we have one place that actually sort here in town.
Garden.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we planning on getting more? Is that part of the conversation?
It's a possibility. I don't know that it's something that we would initiate, but I think it's going to be based off of, if the market, it's kind of a market driven type of thing. So, Garton, for the most part, I think does a great job. What we might do and look at, and when I say local partners, we talked with Garton, and they have a recycle depot as well. And as that mix of products change, potentially and additional items are added, or maybe there's some things that we really want to, but there isn't an end market or a good way to recover that product, we might drop it from the list. Their machinery, their equipment, their facilities may need to change. Same thing with the MRF. So they do sorting, but it can also be used as reload facility. There may need to be some changes or modifications made there, expansion, et cetera. And so some of this funding could be directed there as well. This is the survey. This is literally the handwritten that I went through, and we talked with multiple people. So we made it pretty before we sent it off, I promise. But it's not super detailed, but just as an example, first 5 pages are instructions and demographics. But when looking at, not detailed. Where am I looking for? Right here. So for instance, expanding a reload facility. Do we need equipment? Do we need to move or move bales, reload, etc.? Compactors? Do we need to hire staff? Do we need monitoring equipment, cameras, that type of thing, to say, hey, make sure that folks aren't contaminating? Ongoing operation, do we need land storage or other paving, paving, fencing improvements, that type of thing? Again, they're trying to get a very high level. Let's actually go on to the next slide, and we'll kind of talk about this survey and kind of what's coming up next.
Before we move on to that, can I ask you a quick question that's probably only tangentially related?
Sure.
I understand that the bill passed to outlaw styrofoam in restaurants.
I did hear about that.
Is that, what's the enforcement mechanism? Is that us?
I don't know, but I'll follow up.
Okay.
I'm so excited. I want to get it out of grocery stores too. The fact that we still have styrofoam plates for sale. Oh, great. I did the bottom for you. But am I alone?
No.
Yeah.
Me too.
Get fired up.
We all have our passions.
I know our folks at folks in Marion County Environmental Services over there were tracking that very, very closely. So I can get some information.
I was just curious how, it's kind of like the plastic bags, okay, well, how does that really happen? And if nobody makes it happen, then it's probably not really going to happen. So I'm just curious.
Yep.
Yeah, that's never worked.
That's never worked.
Right.
So I mentioned an rulemaking advisory committee. So they held 6 meetings. The last one was in April. So that means that now we're into a public comment period for months of May and June. So I'll be looking at the final rules and seeing if there's anything additionally that the city might want to comment on that. But again, we've got a couple months period for that. The plans, the needs assessment I mentioned, that's being reviewed by DEQ, and then that's being sent to the PROs. So there's a separate process where they're forming these PROs. It could be one, it could be multiple. It may be industry specific, or like I said, it could be just one overarching, but those are nonprofit organizations. So once those are formed, then the assessments, after being reviewed by DEQ, are going to go to the pros, and they are responsible for coming up with a plan of how they're going to meet the needs that we said we want to do in terms of improvements or expansion to our recycling within the city. and potentially the necessary funding for that, which will then determine their fees and kind of that other, everything leading up to that. Now, they're not doing that in a silo either. They'll be calling and saying, hey, City of Salem said they needed or wanted to expand XYZ. Okay, what does that actually mean? Okay. What do we have? Again, based off the rules, let's just take the recycling depots again. All right, so you have 7 of them in the City of Salem. Based off of this, it looks like maybe you need 10 based off of the unified list, materials list, statewide list. These are the items that should probably be, that would be collected at these depots. Okay, how does that then match up with the existing facilities that you have? So we'll be going into that next layer and more detail of that assessment, where the first assessment is basically we're putting our hands up saying, yes, we want to participate, and these are the areas we want to participate. Now it's okay. At what level, what we're getting into the details. And so we'll be working with them to develop that plan, that program plan that would then direct the funding.
Hey, Ryan, quick time check if I
Oh,
can.
excuse me.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
the meeting goes to 11:30. I still just need to run through the work plan updates. So I think about 5 minutes.
This is my
it?
last slide.
Oh, right on.
What do you need from us in that process, if anything?
At this point, immediately nothing. What would be ultimately, though, I think we've talked about a recycling or a solid waste committee, subcommittee to the council, and that's the venue that I would imagine having more in-depth discussion.
So, okay, and are you waiting on me on that, or is that something that's coming forward later? I can't remember where that is actually at.
I think there's something in your inbox.
Okay, that's
from
okay.
Josh.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Let's see here. Public comment period. The pros in March of 2024 deliver the plans. We'll be working with them during that time. In late 2024, after the plans have been approved by DEQ, we begin the discussions on how we're actually going to be implementing that. July of 2025 is the big date when all those program plans are scheduled to be implemented. And then in July 2026, the multifamily program plans would be implemented. So last slide.
Is there anything we can do as a city to get that multifamily kickstarted? Because that's an area where there's so much opportunity, especially with so many multifamily developments, and they're just not getting the job done.
Probably one of the biggest things we can do is ensuring that the proper enclosures are in place, so that that the developers are working with the haulers to make sure that there's space to turn around, to bring their trucks in. Are there do the enclosures have enough space for the receptacles or dumpsters that would be in there?
So that's all very highly regulated in our code. Is that just not happening? Or is the code inadequate? Because it's very detailed, like turnaround and radius and everything like that. So if it's not working, we should know and fix that. Or is this just maybe older buildings that need to be upgraded?
That's an area I haven't looked into much. So, but that's yeah, definitely a good question.
New construction should not be a problem. If it is, it can be fixed.
There may be, the design might not be the problem with the new buildings, it might just be the implementation.
Yeah.
Because we can require the design, but then to actually carry it out.
Well, we check.
Mhm.
But I mean, a year from now,
Oh, I see.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Gotcha.
Like,
okay.
sure, yeah, we got our inspection, we're good to go, now
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
You know, like, it's
Mhm.
a year later
Not
and,
consistency and follow up.
Right.
Yeah.
So last thing, recyclingact.oregon.gov. There is a ton of information, even if you want to go back and look at how the bill was originally developed and the lead up to that, which the city was involved in some of that process as well. Then the rulemaking, there's the minutes and all that for the 6 meetings, but probably more useful to this group is there's a number of videos. They're like the 2-3 minute videos or some cartoons and some kind of like, fun stuff. But
Are you starring in any of these videos?
I am not starring in
Oh,
those
okay.
videos. Thankfully, they didn't even ask for voiceover, but
Wow.
um,
Well, the cartoon thing really spoke to me.
but there's some, kind of some quick highlight, like, hey, this is kind of what it is. This is what the PROs are like. This is how recycling will be changing. This is, and a lot of it's kind of neat. They take it from the perspective of, okay, in 2028, I think is the year they pick. What does recycling in Oregon look like? And so that's the goal. That's the future goal. And then we kind of backtrack into, all right, what do we need to do to get to that goal and meet that goal?
And that's not very far away. It's only 5 years.
And
Yeah.
we're there. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, tons of great information. There's a really cool brochure that I was trying to disseminate into here. Unfortunately, it doesn't work very well as something to send out, but I can send it out. It's best to read it in printed form because that's how it's designed. But anyway, happy to answer any additional questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Are there any
Thank you.
questions?
No, I think we counted him.
I think we did.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
know where the videos are, so I have any questions.
All right, Heather.
So I had printed off copies for those that would like. Hopefully there's enough. I see a few extra of the work plan and the updates that we'll share quickly here at the end. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so I'll kind of highlight these on the screen at the same time. So each of these strategies, these were called out in January. We've had a couple additions since then, and it was deemed from the beginning something that would be kind of iterative and change, evolve over the years. So that's exactly what we wanted. First one, TL19, was the review and update of the city's transportation system plan. That is going to be a multi-year effort, but efforts are indeed already underway. They're looking to integrate that update with the climate-friendly and equitable communities rulemaking. So currently, there's two kind of pieces to that are in the works under phase 1 of the TSP update. That's a regional scenario plan.
We did meet with the city of Kaiser and Marion County to sort of hash out the governance of that. And I think we got to an agreement. So
Very good. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a staff report in June. Yep. Getting
Okay.
approval of it and a couple of those things that go with it.
And I think that was the second item, the regional work plan is my understanding. So it
Yeah.
had regional scenario planning, looking at climate friendly, walkable mixed use, and that regional work group. Good. So I think both may be coming to city council in June, if I'm not mistaken. That is moving forward. TL21, follow the DEQ rule requiring commute trip reduction program that's currently underway development. Transportation planning staff is sitting in on the rulemaking advisory committee for that, with DEQ leading the effort. Draft rules are underway. In fact, I think they are near completion. It sounds like there might be a set of rules by maybe July to be posted for public comment. So we might have an update to share with this group for the July meeting on where those rules are at.
Great. I'm very interested in this one.
Mine too. TL24, charge for city controlled parking, starting with on-street in the central business district. Mayor Hoy presented a motion to staff at the end of February, directing staff to return with a plan for this. And I did learn that a report is soon coming. It sounds like in June. If a report will be submitted.
I think we're doing everything in June
It sounds like
this year.
so far.
Well, June's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, busy month.
TL40, amend city code to eliminate parking minimums throughout Salem. This one has been completed. At this point, city council held a hearing on ordinance 423 that was on April 10th and the second reading on the 24th. The ordinance passed, and I understand unless there's an appeal on that, it should take effect the end of May. So that removes all citywide parking minimums. With maximums imposed.
And we'll report back then in June that the sky did not fall.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
even as a lowly planning commissioner, I've had people complain.
Yeah. It didn't help that the downtown parking conversation
Yes.
came up at the same time. People are conflating those two
Yes, that's
issues.
absolutely true.
And it just made everybody very confused.
Okay, moving into energy strategies, energy 4, begin reporting on community greenhouse gas emissions. I'm happy to say that that has been completed at least for the next few years. It's recommended that we do that every about 3 to 5 years is what ICLEI recommended. So we've completed the 2021 inventory. We had a presentation on final results in March to this group. There was a question raised during our last meeting because of the variation that we found with this update in the transportation data. We used, again, 2 different sources. Early on, we used a SCATS model, Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Model data. The new report, it was recommended that we use Google EIE data. There was about a 40% drop in our emissions in 2021. We're pointing to the change in difference, and we can't unfortunately point beyond that. So there was questions that were raised about, well, can we go back to that SCATS model and take another look and try to recreate the 21 numbers through that? And so we did. We reached out to staff. Unfortunately, there's been it sounded like at least 2 different updates or iterations of that model. So despite that, they tried to do the run and get updated numbers. And it came to be a 65% vehicle mile reduction between the 2016 numbers and our 2021, where it was only 40% when we looked at Google EIE. Staff with SCATS are confident that it's probably just not the best tool going forward. There's going to continue to be variations in different background data sources that are used to populate it. So it was recommended we stick with the Google data. We did reach out to ICLEI and ask if they had mentioned during our last meeting that they can run just vehicle miles emissions, transportation emission reports for us. So we've asked them to do that for 2018, which is the first year that Google's data became available. So 2018, 19, and 20. So that work's underway. Again, that's just to look at our vehicle miles traveled data from Google EIE, and then we'll get associated emissions as well. But that might help give us a little bit better comparison with our 2021 numbers, and then we can move forward.
Sounds good. Thanks for trying.
Yeah. So that is underway. EN7, hire a full-time city climate action plan manager. We were initially going to propose a new staff person in the budget, and thankfully, in lieu of requesting new staff, we were able to find a vacant engineer 1 position that will be reclassified, or has, I guess at this point, been reclassified as a program manager 3 that would serve as that dedicated climate action plan manager position. So we have that step completed. Really all the next step is to post that, and we anticipate posting that for an open recruitment process before the end of the fiscal year. So I think things are pretty much ready to go. We need to fine tune the listing and get our interview materials ready, and we'll post. Charlie.
I would just add on that, we were running 5 or 6 vacancies, and we're adding some new engineer positions still. And so it just, rather than keeping the position open and sitting there, we just thought we'd move it over, get this process sooner, and then we still have some additional positions being created, and it just seemed like it made sense rather than waiting.
So EN11, this one was added at our last committee meeting, create a climate, sorry for the typo, climate champion partnership in collaboration with other major energy users in Salem. So I have not started on this one just yet, no huge updates, but I did spend a bit of time trying to take a step back and think of where to start with this. And I think it makes sense. We had a couple of folks from the state Department of Energy that came and spoke with us last year. I think it was August, and briefly mentioned that the state has its own, it's called a SEED program, state energy efficiency requirements for all state buildings. Depending on the size, there's a different set of requirements, and that pertains to new buildings as well as major remodel projects. So I'm thinking that those folks would have some information to share about recent projects and that they've done at the state level, as well. Department of Energy, and I met a gal actually last week that they work with the let's see, what is it called, the school public purpose charge. So they actually work with schools across the state to collect the fees that are collected from our utilities that schools can utilize for energy efficiency projects. So I think it makes sense. I've got a couple staff, the statewide sustainability officer, and then other folks from Department of Energy that I think will be an excellent resource just to get started with for ideas to learn about their requirements and to learn about maybe some other recent energy efficiency projects for these large users.
Can I add something here?
Yes.
Sure. So next week I'm meeting with the state sustainability officer
Are you?
about state efforts in Salem
That's interesting.
to improve efficiency and add solar. And I know that they told me they were doing a big project at their motor pool facility here.
Okay.
So I can share that information if you want to
Please.
join me. Because I think it
If
might be
I
the
could,
exact,
that would
almost
be
the exact
great.
same conversation.
Is it Mr. Wortman?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah.
great.
So we're gonna have a chat. And I can be happy to pull you in. Have you talked at all with the hospital or Willamette University?
Not yet, no, but that's been in the back of my head. I know that the hospital participated in another program that we've looked at, strategic energy management, that the Energy Trust and others offers, but that's kind of an internal change in policies and things to energy. So there probably is quite a bit.
I talked actually with the Energy Trust folks, and I had a meeting with the people involved in municipal and multifamily. And they had a lot of information about projects here in Salem as well.
Great.
So they're a good place to start.
I hate to be a downer, but I do have a hard stop at 11:30.
Okay.
I have a constituents meeting downstairs, so.
So moving quickly, 12, develop a comprehensive approach to energy efficiency in municipal buildings. I think a great first step, I hope for this, there's an energy efficiency and conservation block grant program, a non-competitive formula grant. The city of Salem is eligible for, it's almost $215,000. The purpose of those funds is to do just that, is to kind of work to create energy plans, audits. You can use the money for equipment rebates. So the first step in that process was to submit a pre-award, some information. So that was done. That was due the end of April. So that has been submitted. We now have a year to complete the grant or voucher application. There's a couple of options, but I'm hopeful that that $215,000 can really help us. My understanding is energy assessments and audits can be fairly spendy. So I think we'll convene a work group with staff to kind of work through different options for looking at our own buildings, but hoping that that money will help, and we'll certainly get started. I don't intend to wait until the end of the year to submit information, but we have some time.
Will that come back to this group before it's submitted?
It certainly can. Yes, yes.
I think we would be interested to see
Okay.
what staff come up with.
Okay. And 29. Work with PGE, Salem Electric, ETO for that network of renewable microgrids. And the update that I have on that, sounds like you guys all toured the shops. Staff are working on the performance agreement with Odo presently, and hopes to have that finalized soon. The next step will be an agreement with PGE so they can start the work. And it's my understanding they still anticipate completion by the end of this year.
So if I can add one thing, I know the mayor has to go, so I'm going to speak quickly here. The FAA is supporting solar installations in airports. They put out a report in 2018 on that. And I talked with our airport manager a little bit about that, and he thought the idea of adding a microgrid and solar at the airport would be a wonderful way to move forward. We're currently doing an airport master plan update. It doesn't include a solar feasibility study in it, but it could if we choose to do that. About 20% of municipal airports around the country have solar at airports, and Chattanooga, Tennessee covers their entire operations from solar.
That's cool.
I think given the size of ours, it would probably be an easy thing for us to do. And I think given what PGE was talking about, there seems like a lot of potential there, and that could just expand the microgrid.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you. for
Yep.
sharing.
I had understood that there was an issue with the reflectability of the panels near
They
airports.
have
And
to-
have they resolved that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it has to be south of the airport traffic control center, and they do have to do a glare study.
Yeah, okay.
All right, EN30 PGE joined us this morning and touched briefly. This speaks to that umbrella tariff program that has been under discussion for some time, but is still under development. It sounds like we'll learn more. They did provide us very draft framework towards the end of last year. But it sounds like we'll get some more information later this year. Next one, EN32, promote incentives by Energy Trust, and this hits on multiple strategies within the plan. Energy Trust was initially hoping to be here today. I was sorry that at the last minute they were unable to join, but I hope to bring them back. I've met with their public relations staff to start talking about different and creative ways to help share their information. They're planning to send me some printed materials for outreach events for our desks here. We're going to work on digital information that we can supply via social or through our planning staff through their pre-app conferences. So there's a number of different options on the table. In addition, a number of website updates that I can do. I've seen other cities that have really fleshed out pages with their programs. So hoping to just dive into that here in the coming months. CM1, not a huge update for this, create an environmental screening tool. Still reviewing what the potential next steps would be, but I think several here in this group have seen that transportation staff are indeed working on what's called a socio-demographic equity scoring tool, beta version, very early form. But it's something that I'm learning about and as potential option to kind of expand and to pull in some of that environmental justice data as well. We may need to collect some of our own data, I think, moving forward, urban heat islands and such, really get a good tool, but we're still figuring that out. On the list. I did some public engagement activities over the last couple months, including Earth Day event, presentation to the Master Recyclers program, planning to do Public Works Day. I did do one quick news story on our greenhouse gas emissions as well last month. So outreach effort, we're just getting started, getting underway. Yeah. Materials and Waste 21, Ryan mentioned that I think one of the next steps for this is potentially a solid waste advisory committee.
I'm just getting ready to appoint members to that.
Hazard mitigation plan is still underway, efforts on that with DLCD, and it should be finished by the end of the year. And the only other thing I wanted to add, a pretty cool grant opportunity came my way. It's called the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant Program from U.S. Department of Transportation. Very competitive grant nationwide. Projects awards up to 15 million, and the application's due the end of May, but I do have a staff report drafted that I'm going to try to get into the system this week so that a staff report can be presented to council May 22nd, and I can move forward and try to apply for funding to expand publicly accessible charging stations throughout on city-owned properties to start.
Great.
We'll go for that whole 15 million.
Excellent. Thank you for the update. I apologize. I do have to run. So we will see everybody again in July.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for
I might need to move the July date meeting. It's currently July 10th. I'll be out the week before.
Okay.
Okay. I'll post to be, yes.
I think bringing it up here is great. Use that.
You have time after this meeting?
Yeah.
It's Brian.
So Sarah, you present.